Good morning. Hello, my friend. Hello, my friend. How are you? Come on, get on in here. Good morning. Good morning. Yes, it is. It is the day, the weekend of Mother's Day weekend. So for those of us who have mothers, mine has dementia and is in a facility. So she's just very unaware of even what day it is. However, I am celebrating her. I'll go see her tomorrow, and already brought her up her yellow roses that she loves with a great big happy Mother's Day balloon the other day, and absolutely put a smile on her face and definitely made my heart smile. That was a win-win. And I'll go see her tomorrow and take her up a little piece of cake and her favorite vanilla shake, and that's how I'm going to begin my day. And I also send healing prayers to those of you who don't have families, our mommies, and also to the loved ones who, have been trying to have babies and have been unsuccessful in having that, and to the ones that have miscarriages. My daughter was one of those people, not even one of those people. What is it? A mom that lost her baby. And, I have nieces and cousins and all these, dear, loved people in my life that I've lost unfortunately, to miscarriages or stillbirths or all other sorts of things. So prayers and prayers and prayers to you. I know that this can be definitely a very challenging weekend. So I just want to know that we are just pouring love and greatness into you and just surrounding you with prayers and love and hope. All right. Okay. So happy Mother's Day to you. All right, let's get into the goods today, everyone. So I've been sharing with you that I'm going to be talking to you about something very, very super important. And it was a realization that I had with my mentor, well, actually maybe more than a month ago. And I was reading his book, The 7-Minute Setup by Frank Lopes. I know that we've talked about it. I have it. Oh, it's in my bag because my bag goes with me everywhere. And that goes with me. And it's about visions and goals and all these, wonderful, amazing things that we can create for ourselves in our lives. And there was a moment that I had set up an interview with a very high profile, high public, self-made millionaire, and I froze in my tracks, and I could not for the life of me figure out what was going on. There was this overwhelming anxiety and this overwhelming fear, and I just couldn't do it. One thing I did know, though, that during this, I knew that I had to talk to somebody. I knew that there was somebody that, could really assist me in, getting to the next level, figuring out what, that next level, would be, and really sorting through some really feelings of unworthiness of why I wasn't able to have this conversation. And a lot of things that kept coming up too is not that I'm not good enough. I knew that I was good enough to have the conversation, but there was something else that was holding me back, and I just couldn't quite figure out what it was. And when you share something with somebody too, it really is, the doors of opportunity really begin to open, and words of wisdom start pouring in through various people, different ways, whether it could even be watching a movie and all of a sudden you have this moment and it's like, oh, that's what it was. Right. And I knew that I had to talk to somebody, and there was like a few different people that kept going through my mind, and like, who would be the most productive for me to have this conversation. And this is one of the most probably pivotal things I could tell you right now, is that if you're surrounded by a lot of people that you either feel that you're too trusting with them, and they're too trusting with you, and you're too comfortable, it's not your person to talk to, because they're where you're at, and they're not able to give to you the advice that you require to move yourself into the next piece. And I'm not saying that their advice isn't valuable at all. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're feeling so comfortable, like I had a group of friends for the longest time, and basically what we really talked about a lot of times was things that we did in our past. So what are we going to do, though, to move it forward? So what is it that's holding us back? And what are the lies? What are the lies that we keep telling ourselves of why we aren't able to do something? And so this week I was on Clubhouse, and I'm in the Breakfast of Champions. Glenn Lundy is the founder of that group. I'm also in his group hashtag Rise and Grind. And I've just been really able to be connected with some pretty incredible humans. And they were talking about this very thing about the lies that we tell ourselves, the lies that, maybe you tell other people. And there were a couple of people on there that were very, very open about their compulsive lying and where that even came from. And I had never thought of it that way. And I was like, oh, and I'm like thinking, really? Like right now here in this second, like I lied. We were taught to lie when we were really young, especially in my house, because I lived in a domestic violent household. Like my stepdad was a drunk from Friday through Sundays, and there was just a lot of battering going on in our house. And you learn to just not tell people what was going on because, first of all, one, we're in survival mode. Two, we don't tell people, hey, Rebecca, nice to have you here. Two, we don't tell people, especially those that are in school and things like that, because we don't know what's going to happen. Because I was in a house, though, where we were heard, or that we were told, not to speak unless we're spoken to, and be seen and not heard. And so, good morning. So if I was, to say anything about what happened over the weekend at my home, there were consequences for that, right? So we learned to not say a lot of things, or we learned how to tell half truths, right? And so in my entire life, I have said half truths, because that way I'm considered, at least for me, that I'm not lying, but I'm not telling you everything either. So therefore I'm good, right? So there is a lot of that going on. And even in raising my own children, there were half truths all the time. Like I taught my kids to say and do half truths. And we'll get to that in just a minute. So during the subject of lying to ourselves and lying to others, there really are a lot of consequences. And the very first time I really heard about lying was I went to a great friend of mine, Ben Brownsberger, and his then wife, Dottie Lassard. She's no longer with us. I'll remember her. This moment was a really great one. We had a fantastic event that we went to called Clemmer and Clemmer. And unfortunately, Clemmer has passed away too. And he had, these events may still be going on. I don't know, but I definitely was involved in one of them. And one of the big lessons I took away, there was a lot of things I took away from that. But one of the biggest lessons I took away from that was that I had taught my kids how to lie. And I was like, what? Like, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And it devastated me. And I had talked to another, friend of mine who was in the same company that we were at this time. And I talked to her about it, and she was upset because a lot of people that had been attending these different events, I came back and, you get the self-proclaimed knowledge that you've learned something, and so you really want to do something different, which is great. However, it affected me in such a way that I took upon so much guilt because that's what I do. It's like my family, like I'm the mama bear, and I want to protect them and, take care of them. And, I didn't realize that I had really been hurting them. And that was my very first introduction to as being a parent, because I really felt that I was doing the best I could with what I had at the time. And I do still believe that. And however, I taught my kids to say half truths to protect not only themselves, but also because they were protecting their mom. And anyway, we'll talk a little bit more about that too in a minute. So there's also, it's not even just about lying, but the imposter syndrome that we hear about continuously going on right now. That was another one. And it kept coming up, and I'm like, imposter syndrome, like, what is that? And then it was like, oh, okay. So there was that again. It's like not good enough, or people are going to find out about me, and, maybe I'm not that great person that they all think I am. And I didn't even realize that any of this was even going on with me. And I've been, in a company for 11 years, and I've not really gotten anywhere with it. Excuse me, everyone. I've had bronchitis and I'm still getting over it. And the more I talk, then the more this stuff comes up. Oh, goodness. And anyways, I think I can talk now. And now I just totally lost my train of thought. Can you believe that? Oh my gosh. All right, well, we'll just keep going. And yeah, I completely lost my train of thought on that. That happens. And I'm still also, everyone, my brain fog is lifted like 98%, and I still have like a little 2% of that. Those of that have been following know that I've had I had breast implants, and then I had them explanted, and I have had what's called BII. It's a breast implant illness. And when we speak of lies, that was a lie that was told to me too. So there was a lie that was said, and maybe it was intentional, not intentional. Maybe it was to protect the, medical community. I don't know for sure, but here's what I do know is that when I had received my implants the first time in 1991, and my doctor that did my implants had told me that they were safe and I would have them for years and I wouldn't have to worry about it. Well, a couple years before, so I had it started to experience all these different symptoms of different things, and I would continue to go to the doctor, and the doctor would continually run tests and continually tell me that there was nothing wrong. And at one point, I have seen it on my record that they had put me down as a hypochondriac, and so those of us that have had breast implant illness, that is definitely one of the big flags that doctors put on, because they aren't aware of what we're going through. They don't even know what blood tests to run. They don't know anything, right? So that's my new phase of my new journey moving forward, one piece of it. And then this will segue into what I wanted to share with you. So just give me one second. My grandson came down here. What's up, bud? Grandma's on my live right now, so can I finish with this? What can I help you with?
Is it okay when I smell it? It feels like I was going for a walk.
No, it's okay, honey. I promise it's good.
May 13.
Yep, you're good. You got a few days to go. Good job, though. Don't swing that around in case it falls out, okay?
Okay.
Thank you, bud. So anyway, so come to find out, so I got explanted on January 20th, and I was super excited about, well, when I came out of surgery, I was like completely bloated, like just full on, just going crazy. And yes, Rebecca, you would have loved to have seen your grandson just now. He's so cute. He checks all of the expiration dates on everything now, and he is so cute. I have to constantly remind him, though, it's okay, it's okay. So anyway, so I had my breast explantation on January 28th, and I blew up like a balloon, and I seriously looked like I was like 9 months pregnant, and I've not been able to get rid of a lot of the the toxicity that's been going on. And so I connected with, and I haven't been able to work out. My bladder's been crazy. Like, I'm like, oh my God. And so I decided to join this group called 75 Hard Breakfast with Champions, and I'm in there, and all of a sudden it just really sounded like I was having a lot of excuses and maybe telling maybe half truths and lies, and that isn't what was happening. It was factual things. And I said, you know what, I can't do this. And so I had to reach out, and this is what, in anything that we do, there's always a solution. So there's no reason why, if you make it a priority, that you can't make a certain thing happen, because you can make it happen. So I knew that there was something really major going on. As one of my girlfriends, she looks great. She's losing weight like crazy. She's having a lot of really bigger health issues. Like she had a kidney infection and ended up in the hospital just a week or so ago. And I had a UTI. I've never had one in my life. And I'm like really, like, I kind of know how to take care of myself, right? So, and we're like, what is going on? And so I reached out to a doctor who specializes in BII and specializes in toxicity. And we took an hour and went through a whole gamut of things. And there are a lot of things that maybe or maybe not happening, but there's like things I got to do to get control of the situation. And a lot of what may be going on is mold. And there might even be mold in our house. So I got to get that tested too. And so there's just like all these things that I'm like, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, you know what? I talked to you, my friend, about making sure that we, get healthy, stay healthy, have regular checkups, all these things. Well, these are checkups too, right? Even for our home needs a checkup, and we got to have these things happen. So all of this is going on. So now I remember my story. So I had my doctor back in 1991 put in these implants, and I knew that something was wrong like a couple years before I had my first set taken out. There were just things that were not going right at all. And I had these big blotches on my body, and I just had no libido. I had no energy for things. But yeah, I was going through a lot. I had a son at that time that was, dying of kidney failure. Like all these things were happening. And so there was a lot of stress that was going on too. So, but I also knew this. I just intuitively knew that it was my implants. And even though I would talk to somebody about it, they just didn't understand. They didn't care, or, because they didn't understand, they didn't know. And so they didn't want to talk about it, which is, great too. And it was when I got my second set of implants in 2011, and all my symptoms from my first implants went away. I knew that it was implants. And I still really didn't do much about it, right? And I mean, I would talk about it a little bit, but I really didn't, acknowledge that was the fact that was going on until about 4 years ago. I started experiencing some of the same things that I had going on with the first set of implants. And then I was introduced to a group called Breast Implant Illness by Nicole on Facebook. And when I joined, there was 60,000 women, and now there's over, I think it's like 150 or 140,000 right now. So that goes to tell you that, people advocating for better health and all these different things is really leading into a new direction, because those lies that we were told, even by the FDA, that these silicone and saline bags and even the gummy bears and whatever other one you're using are safe, is a complete lie. So the FDA has definitely put a black box now on the silicone bags, and it's a warning, a super huge big warning to let you know that these are dangerous. And now moving into the next piece of what I've done and what I do is I'm advocating for those of us that are I'd love to catch you before you decide to get breast implants. I'd love to put you in the group and show you in that where you can go in and listen to all these women that have these amazing testimonies. There's doctors that you can go to. There's there's women that are starting groups and fundraising so that they can help women who are financially unable to have financial aid, and get them help so that they can have their breast implants removed. Now, when I got my implants too, so this is something I've not shared, and it's taken me a long time to share this. This was the very thing that I had taught my kids to half tell the truth, and that I have told myself this lie for years. And I realized, like I said, it was like I think it was a month ago, maybe even a little bit longer than that, when I had reached out to Frank, because I was so petrified to talk to Glenn Lundy about, doing an interview with him. I couldn't even do it. And I realized that talking with Frank, I realized what exactly was going on. And it has completely changed how moving forward. It has completely changed my business from the senior community to the outcast, to at least to the people that judge, to the outcast, to, the misfits, the, unfortunate, or whatever name that, people judge and can put that on. And, I'm going to tell you a story, and then I'm going to tell you what happened and why I have got breast implants in the first place. So my son, my one that passed away 11 years ago in 1999, it was 2 months after I had married my second husband, who was my kids' stepdad. And I got a phone call on a Monday morning that my son had fallen off a roof and had broke his back. And I'm just kind of lollygagging around the house, and I'm, blow dry my hair and stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll meet you at the hospital. And I wasn't in any big hurry about it. I can't even tell you how many times I've been at the hospital with my kids for one thing or another. And I was just not in any big hurry. And then a few minutes later, I get a phone call from my son's best friend, who my son was working for at that time. And he told me that Jesse may have some neurological damage. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, I think he's paralyzed. And I'm like, what? I couldn't even get those words to even sink in my brain. And I said, what? And he said it again, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I grabbed my husband, we tore out the door, we went to the hospital, and sure enough, my son was working with his best friend, and they were up on top of a roof, and my son Jesse was helping his friend, another one of their friends, get debris off this roof while they were throwing off a great big like a pole type thing or whatever. Well, there was a nail that was stuck in it, and Jesse had taken his shirt off. It was hot. It was a Monday morning, but it was already hot. It was a September morning, and it had like caught his arm, and it literally, they were throwing this wood over into a dumpster. Well, the nail had caught his arm, and it threw him over too. And so he had fallen a story and had hit his back on a retaining wall, and it instantly broke his back, and it paralyzed him from his nipples down. And when I walked in the hospital, I didn't even realize, I was in such shock that I was literally crawling on the floor and not even realizing that my son was right on the other side of the door in the very first room. I didn't know. I was waiting for the doctors. They came to tell me and my husband what was going on. And so I finally was able to get myself together enough to get up off the floor and walk into his room. And the first thing my son said to me was, Mommy, he goes, I'll be okay. It'll be okay. I'm like, how do you know that? Like, what do you know? Like, you're paralyzed. You didn't realize what's going on here? And he said, Mom, I'm telling you, I'll be fine. We're going to be fine. And that was the strength that he had carried from that moment forward. Well, we were in the hospital for, between that and therapy, it was like, I want to say it was almost 3 months. It was a really long time. And during that time, the job that I had and the establishment that I worked at, every single Friday night, my manager would come in with a handful of cash and give it to us so that I could stay at the hospital with my son and not have to stress about our finances, so that we could make sure that our rent was paid. There was food on the table for for my other two at home with my husband, and just to make sure that we were taken care of. Now, the people that I talk of right now that have literally, stepped up and became our family and was our family and made sure that our family was taken care of, were the most amazing, beautiful souls that I have had the opportunity to work with and know at that time. And we worked in the industry. I worked in a very elite club. I worked at a club where we had very high-powered people come in. I worked at a club where we had, our people had to come in dressed full on, our greeters and doormen and all these people dressed in suits. And we had a very great community of excellent people, staff, and the people that worked there, the people that even most of the time that came in even. And I worked at a place called Sheik's Palace Royale, and it is a gentleman's club. And for 17 years of my life, I was a topless dancer. And I had, the women that I had the privilege and the men that I had the privilege to work with were, your next door neighbor. It was me. It was, a mom. It was somebody's dad. It was somebody's best friend, somebody's daughter, somebody's sister, somebody's, girlfriend or boyfriend or dad or brother or whoever that was. We all are you. It's what we did. It's not who we are. That I was a mom to 3 kids at the time, obviously, and I was married, and my family has always been everything to me. And one of my biggest joys of being able to be in that industry was that I was able to not only not be on welfare or food stamps or any of these other things, I was able to really take great care of my family. I paid my taxes. I paid all my finances on time. We were able to drive nice cars. I was able to go to all their football, baseball games, talent shows, whatever the school had to put on. I was able to be there for them. And I don't regret one single minute of that. I was one of the club's top entertainers, and I value that. And that says a lot about the character that, I have too. I treated people and still treat people very, very special. And I still have a lot of really, really great friends that, I've been out of the industry now since probably 13 years now. I left just a couple years before Jesse had passed away. And for one, I just felt like there was a whole different atmosphere that was going on at that time. And it was just getting really kind of nasty, dirty. And when I had first started, it was very, very upscale, very fun, very clean, very energizing. And, I can talk more. I'm going to share more stories about that. And I'm going to be doing interviews with people from, the club that I grew up in. Basically, my kids grew up with me in that club. But that was a lie for them. Because I'm going to share one story with you. We were at a baseball game, Jacob's baseball game, my middle child. And he came to me one day just really, really upset right in the middle of the game. And he said, "Mom, these people are calling you names." And I didn't sit with everybody really. I kind of sat off in the outfield a lot of times, as I just didn't want to have to talk about what I did or, have questions asked me about anything. And as I did a lot of talking at work, so I just didn't like to talk when I was not at work. And it just made for safe conversations to keep people away from me. And anyway, so Jacob came to me. It was in the middle of a game, and he's crying, and he's like, "Mom," he's like, "there was a boy over there," and there was like a huddle of things going on too, and I was watching, and I was kind of puzzled anyway. And he came up to me, and he's like, "That boy said that you're a prostitute, Mom." I said, "Really?" I said, "Do you even know what a prostitute is?" And he said, "No." And I said, "That's somebody that has," and excuse me, Facebook, if this was like something not supposed to talk about, but I got to talk about this. So prayerfully, you'll post this video. But that's somebody that has sex for money. I said, "Your mommy does not do that at all." And I said, and here's something you can say back to that little boy. You can say, "If you think my mom is this and that, and the other thing," and this is what started our white lies in our house. I said, "If you think that this is what your mom does, I want you to go up and wait till that guy's that kid's with his dad, and say to your friends, how would you even know what my mom does? Were you at the bar where my mom worked?" And you know what? It stopped. All of that chatter stopped, because you know what? Those dads didn't want their wives to know that they were in the club and they saw me in there, right? So all of that chatter started stopping. But it was at that time then when people would start asking my kids, like, "What does your mom do for a living?" Or, people ask me what I do for a living. I always just said, "You know what, I'm in sales and I work at a bar." Then they say, "What bar?" And I just say, "At a bar downtown." "Well, what bar do you work at?" "I didn't know." "Why didn't you go around to all the bars, and when you find me, you'll know where I work?" And that's how it got started. So my kids, to protect me and to protect themselves, never told the truth about what their mom did for a living. They never said where I worked, and we kept it that way. And those lies, though, caused a lot of consequences. And those consequences we'll start talking about, in future podcasts and live video with Shelly Jean at Grandma's on a Mission. And I believe, too, everyone, I'm going to be changing the name of this, too, to Women Empowered on a Mission. I believe that's the name I'm going to go with. I don't know that for sure yet, but I'm just kind of planting that seed, and that's kind of the direction I'm going. I still absolutely love my seniors. Like I said, my mom has dementia. She's in the center. And, there's a whole big piece about that, too, that we tell ourselves and we're in denial about, or we over-exaggerate things, or, omit things. But I want you to know that the truth. So what happened was, I didn't even finish what this whole big story was about. So I wanted to tell you the truth about what I did for a living, because here's what happened. When I went to go interview Glenn, I in talking with Frank about it, I realized a great big huge important thing wasn't imposter syndrome. It was afraid that, oh my gosh, what if they found out that I was a stripper, a topless dancer, entertainer, whatever it is that you want to call it. To me, I was just being a mom, taking care of my family, right? Well, I was so petrified, and I realized that for the last 11 years on why I haven't been able to grow my business and why I haven't been able to really move myself forward in anything is because I've been so afraid that what I did would hurt somebody else, that I was afraid to have those conversations. And Frank set me straight. Frank, I love you, love you, love you so much for this. He helped me see and I just had to realize that, you know what, all of the other people too that I am interviewing and that I have connections with, they all have a past too. And is what we did, it's not who we are, right? And once I really got that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so true. So I didn't hurt my kids. In fact, we had an amazing life for the most part. It was in their older years that, a lot of things had happened. And my son Jesse, he's a whole story by himself. We'll talk more about him too. So you want to hear the stories and you want to know what's going on with us and you want to know how we get through to get to. Well, keep following, like, subscribe. Right here, I'm on YouTube at Shelly Janet Grandma's on a Mission, and share out however you want to share it out, and but that's my story. And so moving forward, I'm so excited to start interviewing people now, especially now that I've really realized and know exactly what it was that's been holding me back all these years and it wasn't that I was, feeling, I loved what I did. I loved it. I had fun. I made a lot of money at it. Like I said, I was an entertainer of the year, 3 years. And, I was surrounded by an amazing group of girls and guys alike. And we all just, really, looked out for each other and stuck up for each other. And I wouldn't change 1 minute of that for anything. But what did happen was that I know what such a judgmental industry this is. And so it was my fear of, like I said, of hurting somebody else with my stories is what has been holding me back. And that was just a great big fat lie that I was telling myself that I didn't even realize that I was doing. That's how embedded it was in my subconscious, that you're not good enough, for somebody else because this is what you did. And you're right, it's what I did, but it's not who I am. And so I'm really, really super excited to start sharing more of this moving forward. And I just want to thank you so much for taking the time out to listen to my story today and to get a better understanding of, some of the reasons why we do some of the things we do, right? All right. So thank you so much. And Rebecca, thank you so much for hanging in there with me. And this is my grandson's other grandma, and she's just such an absolutely fantastic lady. And I just want to thank you so much for being there for all of us. You're awesome. I love you. And thank you, everyone, for being here. Like I said today, feel free to share out the story. And I look forward to seeing you again next Saturday at 9 a.m. Central right here at Shelly Jean at Grandma's on a Mission. And like I said to everyone in the beginning, have a happy Mother's Day. If you don't have, a mom, you're still a woman. Just have a powerful day anyways. All right? All right. Love you all. Have a great rest of your day. And Rebecca, happy Mother's Day. Love you, lady. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.